Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is episode 22 of the ABM All By Myself, or a bowel movement podcast, as it's seldomly or commonly referred to, actually. And as always, I really appreciate you guys liking, commenting, subscribing, ringing that notification bell, ding dong, and getting notified every single day when these episodes go live. Although they go live on a daily basis, fine print, except for some Sundays, they do go live at different times. So ringing that notification bell will ensure that you are on the cutting edge of awareness and you can send this to your friends and be the first one to share. Sharing is caring. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to share a little bit with you. In episode 11, if you do remember, we talked about life path numbers. And the number 11 was very cool. Actually, a couple of you guys in the comments let me know that your number was 11. And I wanted to share today what mine is, because I let you know once we got to that episode, I would tell you. So if you haven't put it together just yet, my life path number is a 22. And it's pretty cool. Any number that's a double, an 11, a 22, or a 33 is considered a master number. Now, I don't consider myself a master necessarily. I'm not trying to be braggadocious about that. But hey, I was born on June 29th, 1985. What are you going to do about it, right? That's all I can do at this point. So let's see here. A life path number 22. Let's read a little bit of a description, and then you guys will know. You could tell me, does this sound like me or does this not sound like me? A 22 life path number offers you the extremes of life's possibilities. On one hand, you have the potential to be the master builder, the person capable of perceiving something great in the archetypal world and manifesting it into the relative world. On the other hand, you can slip into the depths of obscurity, achieving little more than personal support. So guys, it sounds like I could either go all in it to win it, or I could fail miserably by myself. So what do you think? Does that sound pretty accurate? Am I a good representation of the number 22? And again, leave in the comments what your life path number is. It's always very interesting to discuss. So in today's episode, as you can see from the thumbnail, there's a baby Jared in the thumbnail. I was 17 years old. That was a picture of my graduation from high school. And so I figured, you know what, in this episode, I typically don't correlate the topics too much with the thumbnail. I just make something rad looking that I think you'll enjoy. But today, let's actually be cohesive and talk about some high school experiences. So I went to high school at Millikan High. It's in Long Beach, California, after the namesake Robert Millikan. What did he do? I don't know what he did, but he got a high school named after him, which is rad. And, I started there in 9th grade. I went from 9th to 12th grade. And real talk, I wasn't a loner, but I was just kind of cool with everybody. I wouldn't say I had all the friends in the world, but I had no enemies, and I was relatively likable or liked by everybody. As a ginger, as someone with red hair, with braces, that's overweight, I'm just a neutral individual. So I would just kind of bounce from one group to another, whether it be the skater dudes, the hip hop dudes, the basketball players, the football players, whatever the case may be. I would just go into a circle, hang out, crack a couple of jokes, and go about my day. In the 9th grade, I did have one friend that I hung out with for the most part. Actually, the same gentleman that I got a ticket paintballing with. Rest in peace to you, Nick. But he ended up going out of the high school, or going to a different high school in 10th grade. And from then on, I just kind of did my own thing and enjoyed it. And most of my friends that I actually hung out with on a regular basis went to other schools. So it was cool. I enjoyed seeing people at school, but I didn't necessarily have a huge friend group, is what I'm getting at. And how was your high school experience? I mean, did you have a clique? Did you kind of do what I did? Were you popular? Were you the prom king, the prom queen? Share in the comments with us. So the first story I'd like to talk about is actually the first time that I experienced freestyling on a stage level. And the way it came to be is in 10th grade, or maybe 9th grade, I don't know, 9th or 10th grade. There was a dude, a buddy of mine named Nick Janae. Shout out to you, dude, if you're still listening. This dude was into hip hop, into freestyling since I could remember, and we had the same history class. And in this history class, we had an assignment. It was to talk about some sort of an event. I can't remember exactly. It might have been like the Revolutionary War or something of that matter. And we had to present to the class an oral report of that event. So we might have all had different events. I don't remember. But me and Nick, we buddied up. We were cool. We both kind of shared the same vibe. We cared a lot about school, but at the same time, we wanted to have fun. So we decided that I would beatbox and he would actually freestyle just about whatever event we had picked. So I went up, I beatboxed. I wasn't too great at it, and Nick's just freestyled for like 3 minutes. I don't remember it being the best freestyle of all times, but I will say it was the first freestyle that I was a part of because I was beatboxing for it, and we got like I think we got a D or an F. I don't think that he graded us very high. The fact that we freestyled it obviously means that we didn't plan very well ahead because it's unscripted, right? But nonetheless, a very, very fun experience. I highly recommend if you guys have a project at school that warrants you the ability to freestyle an oral report, make sure to do that. So that's one story. I mean, we're freestyle heavy in the podcast, so I figure that's relevant. Another story, so in 10th grade, I hung out a lot after school with a guy named Mike. Shout out to you, Mike. And the reason for that is we lived somewhat close to each other, and my mom got off work around like 3:30. So school would get out at 2:45. Me and Mike, across from the high school, there was a shopping center. It had a Rite Aid, the pet store that I got like my first real job at, which I'm sure we'll have some fun stories in the future about. A Straw Hat, a matter of fact. Shout out to Straw Hat, best pizza in the world, especially the one in Cerritos. But yeah, so it was a shopping center. It also had a Jack in the Box, a green burrito, and all these other cool things. But the place that I really enjoyed the most was Green Burrito. I know it sounds crazy, but my favorite fast food fries come from Mexican restaurants that offer fries. I don't know if it's because the oil that they're frying it in, if it's because they you know, like the Mexicans maybe like crunchier food. I don't know. Because you can get fries from most fast food restaurants and be disappointed almost every single time with limp noodle fries or shit that ain't fresh. And you know, as I'm talking, I'm also thinking they probably didn't sell a lot of fries at Green Burrito. I might have been the only one, so I'm sure they were fresh for me every time, just as so would be because of that matter. But they didn't have ketchup at Green Burrito. That was one thing they were lacking. They did have the packets, but they would only give you a couple of them, and it wasn't enough for me. For me, I just need French fries as a vehicle to get as much ketchup into my mouth as possible, and Green Burrito was offering me the vehicle, but they weren't giving me the gas that I needed. So in the same parking lot, there was a Jack in the Box, which had an actual pump, which a shout out to all you fast food restaurants that just have a pump for the ketchup with those little white cups. Now, the little white cups, fuck all that. You don't need those. You just pump directly onto your tray. There should be some kind of paper topping on the tray, so you're not being too unsanitary here. But I would take the tray from Green Burrito with my fries on it. I would go to Jack in the Box really quickly, pump out a bunch of ketchup, and then I would go back to Green Burrito, hang out with my buddy Mike, and wait for my mom to pick us up. Unfortunately, one day at Jack in the Box, they took notice to this. They thought, man, this fat redheaded kid is coming in every single day, loading up on the ketchup, eating us out of fucking house and home over here, and just going back to Green Burrito. We can't have that anymore. So I remember one day I walked into Jack in the Box, typical, you know, I had my tray, I had my French fries, ready to get my ketchup pump on, and they actually stopped me right as I walked in and told me that unless I was going to actually buy food from their establishment, it was not okay that I just went in and I took advantage of the ketchup, which I told them it looks like it's free to me. And they said, well, it is if you're a customer. So from here on out, sir, please never come back unless you're going to buy something. So I actually got kicked out of a Jack in the Box. I got fucking kicked out of Jack in the Box, guys. That should be the title of this video, but we will see. Another story, I got like 4 or 5 of them written down. I'm not stringing them together necessarily too well. But one of my favorite after-school activities to do after we got bloated off of some French fries and ketchup was to do some little pranks, right? And one of them was we would get a bunch of ketchup packets from the cafeteria, or maybe we got a couple of them from Green Burrito, the 4 or 5 that they offered us, and we would twist them up really tight, and we would throw them all over where people would walk. And the reason we did this is because if you step on that ketchup packet, it will explode and shoot all over the place. Now I know, this sounds like a dick move, but guys, this was 20 years ago. I'm sure that it's been long enough where I can't get in trouble for it anymore if anyone did press charges at the time for getting ketchup on their clothes. But yeah, so that's what we would do. We would chuck out ketchup packets. We would wait for people to step on them. And a few times people got pretty pissed off. And because we were the ones laughing the hardest, I'm sure they knew it was us. However, shout out to my buddy Mike. He was a crazy fucking dude. And if anybody acted like they wanted a piece of us, he would get insane and throw them off. So I hope that Mike is still around with that kind of attitude. You know, he could have put himself in some sticky situations in life, but I appreciated it then because it saved us from getting beat up by people. And I remember one time specifically, we thought, you know, it's really cool to have the one ketchup packet that people step on and maybe it gets a little bit on their walking buddy's shoes. But what if we put a shitload of ketchup packets that we twisted up inside of a styrofoam cup and we put it upside down? And the thought process behind this is it's so hard to walk by a plastic cup that's upside down and not want to stomp on it. It's like you gotta fucking do it. So we did that. We filled up this cup. We put it upside down on the main walkway next to the shopping center where everybody would either continue to walk home, they would walk to get picked up, or they would walk to the bus stop. So there was a lot of heavy traffic going on. This was the Times Square of Long Beach for the moment, at least, right? So we did that. We put the cup upside down. We waited a couple minutes, and there was a couple dudes from the football team walking up, and you could just feel it. You could feel that these guys are not going to let this cup remain intact. They're going to fucking stomp it, and there's going to get ketchup everywhere. And sure enough, they walked up. It was a group of like 4 or 5 dudes, you know, nice shoes, looking real cool. One of the dudes stomped on it, and no lie, ketchup got all over the pants of every single person within probably 10 feet. It was a huge conundrum. People were freaking out. You know, I don't think anyone thought it was blood necessarily because it was on top of the clothes. But yeah, I would say that we probably ruined like 3 to 5 pairs of pants. Some shoes were definitely stained, and it was hilarious. I don't recommend you do it. It isn't that cool. You know, ketchup is one of the things that's the hardest to get off of clothes, but we would pass the time by doing that. And I just felt like I'd share it with you, right? Because it's a fun time. Let's see what else I got here, because I do have some things. Oh, yeah, and I played tennis. So I'm feeling like this episode, you know, yesterday I was a little bit under the weather, so I was under being enthusiastic, and maybe I'm overdoing it today to make up for that. But it's just exciting stuff. It's always exciting to share stories with you guys, and especially these ones that I haven't thought about in a while. And one especially that I enjoy is from my time on the tennis reserves. So in high school, this is a good trick that I would actually tell you you should do if you want. Not like the ketchup packets. That's just a fun story to hear about. You know, we can watch Forensic Files without going and murdering and chopping people up, right? I'm just telling you a fun story. But this one, if you are in high school, maybe even middle school, I don't know. If you're in middle school, I don't know if this is the podcast to be listening to, but if you're like at the end of your high school experience and you don't want to do PE, at least at my school, you could join the tennis reserves. Now, if you were on the actual tennis team, you did have to run some laps. You had to stay after school. You had to do these brutal workouts. But if you were just on the reserves, meaning that if all of the actual tennis team just happened to catch a cold on the same day or happened to, you know, sprain all their ankles at once, you would have to step up to the plate and represent your school to the fullest in a tennis match. And that never happened. But it was a cool way to get out of PE because if you were on the reserves, they didn't give a fuck what you did. Me and my buddies would hang out, we'd play hacky sack, and then I think they would make us run like one lap around one tennis court just to say that we had some physical activity. And that was great. So I did that in 9th grade. I got all my PE credits. I never had to run around the school. I didn't have to go and take showers in the fucking gym or in the, you know, locker room because I didn't really sweat. You know, you don't sweat just playing hacky sack in the shade under a tree. However, if I wanted to do this again in the 10th grade, the tennis coach let us know that it is a requirement, even if you just want to be on the reserves. And this was the first year it happened. So I think what I did is I shared this secret with too many people, guys. the whole tennis reserve team was people that I knew that just wanted to fucking smoke weed and play hacky sack. So maybe I blew the scene up a little bit. So if this is a tip you want to take, don't share it with everybody. Maybe keep it to yourself and your BFF, and that's it. Don't share it with the whole school. So he told us that this year, starting out, you would have to actually go to the summer practice, which was 1 month of like hell month. I don't know if any of you guys played sports, but they have something called Hell Week during the summer where you just train all day, every day for a week. And, that's how you get yourself in shape and prepared for the season. So he said we would have to partake in that if we wanted to be on the reserve team next year. So he will see us all during the summer. Now, during the summer when I was in high school, typically I would hang out, but I also did work alongside my dad. He owned a construction company, which, shout out to you, Dad. He actually finished his last official job yesterday. He's retired. He did this for decades and decades. At one point, in Lakewood, California in the 90s, if you had a room addition or a second story done, there was a 95% chance that my dad's company did it. I'm extremely proud of the legacy Key Construction has left behind. So just a little honorary moment for you, Dad. But I would work construction with my dad over the summers, and I told the coach that I said, hey, I would love to come in and play tennis, you know what I mean? But like, I got to help my dad. He does construction. I make a little bit of money, and he relies on me, which he didn't. I mean, obviously, he was just giving me something to do. But he said he didn't care. He said, look, you got to at least give me 1 week then. Give me 1 week of coming in out of that month and you can be on the reserves. So I told him, fine, fair enough. So the time finally came. It was in like July or so. I think they gave you June off. July was the month, and then you had August off, and then September we'd go back to school. So I hadn't gone to any of them. It was the last week of July, and there was no way I was going to be able to do the whole week. But I thought, you know what? I'll show up on Monday. I'll give it my all. I'll show them what I'm made of, and I'll make them feel like it would be a mistake to not include me on that reserve team. So I rode my bike. I actually zip-tied a tennis racket to the frame of my bike, rode it all the way to school, which was probably, 3 or 4 miles. It was the midst of summer. I was sweating my fucking ass off. I could not stop sweating the whole day, a matter of fact. I was sunburnt to a crisp, and I just remember that whole, the first 2 hours we had to run laps. Then we had to do these warm-up exercises that consisted of running back and forth on the courts, and I didn't realize that they weren't going to have water. I thought, well, they'll probably have a table with snacks, with fruit for the people that want to be healthy, but I'm sure they'll have chips, some soda, some Gatorade, some water. There's no way they wouldn't provide this for us. However, they didn't. So about 2.5 hours in, I'm just fucking dehydrated. I'm about to pass out. I don't think this is the optimal state my body wants to be in. So I start asking people. I say, hey, is there anything you have that I could drink? And everyone's saying, hell no, dude. That's on you that you didn't bring water. If you want, you can go to the drinking fountain, which is like all the way across the school, which they didn't want me to do because I would probably miss the rest of the practice if that was the case. So what I did is I just waited for everybody to start running another lap. I found a water bottle. I birdied a bunch of it into my mouth, not knowing that the gentleman who it was actually coming back to grab it. And he said, what the fuck are you doing, dude? And I said, man, I don't even care. I just got to drink some water, dude. I'm about to pass out. And I did. So I had to steal somebody's water. What a shameful moment in my life. I'm just kidding. It was funny. And then after all of that, I realized I don't ever want to come back again. So I'm going to tell the coach that, hey, dude, that was the only day I could do. Obviously, I gave it my all. I've sweat through all of my clothes. I'm leaving, drips behind me wherever I'm walking. You can see I'm dedicated. And he said, okay, perfect. We'll see once the school year starts if you made it. Guys, spoiler alert, I did not make it. I had to do regular PE the next year, and it was what it was. I was in a class with a bunch of other people that didn't really care about PE, so it was like half lackadaisical, but we did have to run the mile. I don't think I ever ran a mile under like 9 minutes. Leave in the comments, how fast can you run a mile? But yeah, guys, those were some fun high school stories. I know I talked in these sporadic moments. I was overly enthusiastic and charismatic. I'm just, again, I felt like yesterday I didn't bring the energy today. Maybe I overdid it. Maybe I put too much sour cream in the 7-layer dip. Who knows? But I hope you enjoyed that. But, I've asked you to comment at least like 5 things up until this point. So to make number 6, leave a comment. Where did you go to high school? What city and state? And what is your funnest memory of high school? And also, I did ask on Instagram the other day for all of you guys if you had any advice you wanted me to give or any questions. I would do that on the podcast. I'm going to start doing that tomorrow. So if you ask me a question, I might answer it tomorrow. If you ask for advice, we might go over that tomorrow and then probably continue throughout until the weekend because you guys had so many great topics and advice points that you wanted me to hit on. I want to make sure I do them all the proper respect. So on that note, I felt so bad. Yesterday I uploaded and like the first comment, literally the first comment was, I'm hoping for a freestyle. And there was not a freestyle. And you don't even know what it does to me when you guys are asking for the freestyles like that. The first comment, and I don't produce. So I decided in this episode, I'm not going to do a freestyle per se, but I am going to recite one of the first rhymes that I ever wrote. It is actually in spoken word format on my first CD, I Am Music. You can find it on the Let's Mind Travel shop. Link in description. But without further ado, let's get it, guys. Yeah. Kev Brown, man, best producer out in the game. Shout out to you, Kev Brown. Let's do it. My perception of life is undecided, cause most can't see past the reflections of their eyelids. Force-fed belief without the option to choose. The only information we get is by watching the news. The poverty's what bothers me, but no one tries to stop it. Only thing they care about is how to make a profit. The rich stay rich, the poor keep struggling just to feed kids. We got parents out hustling. I get so heated that my blood starts bubbling. It doesn't take a genius to see where the trouble is. The system, the prison, the governments don't listen. Keep loading ammunition, the logic is missing. While overseas and becoming casualties, while back in the US, hopeless, losing families. I know I'll never get an answer for my questions. The world don't make sense like mirrors without reflections. So I messed up one line in there. I gotta be honest, I don't even remember what it was. I wrote that probably 20 years ago. The fact that I still remember it impresses myself. Hopefully you enjoyed that, everybody. Hopefully this episode was a fun one to listen to. And on that note, have a great rest of your day, and God bless.